All right. Looks like we are live. How's it going, everybody? Chuck Holton here, trying to find a flat place to put my tripod. Coming to you from a small farming village out in the southern part of Armenia, just about 17 miles as the crow flies from the Iranian border. If you look at those mountains back behind me, they're about 10,000 feet high. On the other side of those mountains, you got Iran. So it was a very eventful night, and I'm going to try to catch you up on everything that's been going on. It is right now about 6:30 in the morning here in Armenia and in Tehran as well, because Tehran is just that way, 150 miles or something. So let's just thank you for being on. I wanted to just ask you to tell me where you're watching from. Just post in the chat where you're watching from, and make sure you hit that like button while you're at it. And that helps the algorithm know more people need to be watching this. So thank you very much for doing that. I see Wenatchee, Montana, Arizona, Louisville, New Jersey. It's going by so fast I can hardly read it. New Zealand, Canada, Arkansas, all over the place. Bahamas, good grief. People all over the planet watching. We had 146,000 people on the live that I did last night, just about 7 hours ago. It was insane. So let's just back up and kind of figure out what got us here. Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, which was the largest air operation the Israelis have ever pulled off in their history, targeting Iranian nuclear facilities like Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, and military infrastructure as well, including leadership, reportedly killing dozens, among them senior IRGC commanders and nuclear scientists. And they have, we're going to talk more about who all got whacked in these attacks and, what the fallout is going to be in Iran from that. Iran retaliated last night, just about 11:30 Tehran time, with what they called Operation True Promise 3. Ooh, sounds really bad. Operation True Promise 3. Got to get my water here. It fired 100 to 150 ballistic missiles. That's not even the largest ballistic missile attack that they have done on Israel. And it says something about their ability to fire, since they probably would have liked to have fired a whole lot more than that. I mean, obviously, this is all-out war, people. I've said that many times, but this is all-out war. There's no question about it. And so in the last attack that Iran did on Israel, they fired 300 ballistic missiles, and it was the largest ballistic missile attack in history anywhere in the world. This time they fired 100 to 150. Now, more of those missiles got through this time, and there were a lot more Israelis affected, and we're going to talk about that in a minute too, so stick around. They also fired about 100 drones toward Israel, and of course sirens were blaring all across the country. Our CBN news team was all in the bunker, in their houses, and riding out the night with their kids. So that's exciting. So those attacks killed at least one civilian, an 80-year-old Israeli, and dozens were injured. We don't we'll get into the numbers a little later, but it's something like 70 plus people were injured, most of them lightly injured by shrapnel or things like that. Air defense systems in Israel were heavily engaged. Israel's Iron Dome, along with assistance from Jordan and Saudi Arabia and the United States, and even possibly France, helped to shoot down the majority of the missiles. As a matter of fact, Israel is claiming 97% rate of shooting down the missiles and drones. I'm not sure the numbers add up on that, but we're going to talk about that some more in a minute as well. And however, at least 9 missiles happened, made it through and struck Tel Aviv, Haifa, Natanz Air Base. They were trying to strike the Dimona nuclear facility down in the south. Political responses, the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, condemned the Israeli strike. Well, of course. He called it a declaration of war and said that Iran would bring ruin to the Zionist regime. Prime Minister Netanyahu pledged this is just the beginning and said more is on the way. And as somebody was just asking, why doesn't Israel respond? Israel is responding right now as we speak. And there's another barrage coming to Israel from Iran right now as we speak. So I'm going to be giving you updates as I go through this live today as fast as I can, because there's stuff coming in like a fire hose right now. So we're going to try to make sense of it together. Global leaders have urged restraint, as they always do. France, Germany, and China and others called for de-escalation. Some airlines canceled or rerouted their flights throughout the whole region, not just Israel and Iran, but the whole area is a big open space now. Regional airspace was shut down in Iran, Iraq, Jordan, and neighboring countries, which disrupted international flights. Economic consequences have rippled outward. Gold and oil prices have shot up amid the rising geopolitical risk there, because Iran is saying they're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and the Bab el-Mandab Straits say the Houthis say they're going to shut that down. That's obviously going to cause some economic hardship here around the world. Okay. The situation status right now, the conflict is in a severe escalation phase. And we've got ongoing airstrikes and missile strikes going back and forth. The Iranians don't have any planes that can make it to Israel, but they have missiles. And so they're firing their missiles and drones. Israel is flying their planes. Israel doesn't have a lot of missiles that could make it to Iran, so they use planes, and that's quite a bit more expensive, but more powerful. They can carry more ordnance. So the explosions that are being heard in Tehran are much larger than any explosions being heard in Tel Aviv. Okay, so the distance from where I'm standing to Iran depends on whether or not you're talking about road distance or straight line distance. The closest straight line distance we can tell from right here is 17 miles that way. Iranian forces appear to have delayed but not deterred Israel from continuing its campaign of bombing their nuclear facilities. The IAEA has come out and said that the Natanz nuclear facility has been completely destroyed above ground, but they don't know if it has been destroyed below ground. Thank you for that $10, whoever that was. I appreciate that. This is what keeps us out here in the field, so thank you for the donations. That's very kind of you. And those super chats really add up over time. That's really great. Also want to just point out real quick while I'm thinking about it that we've got a Father's Day promotion going on this weekend for my my website, chuckholton.com. You can go over there, and instead of $9 a month, you can sign up for a significant discount and get lots of extra content. Get copies of my books, get downloadable copies, my documentaries, a bunch of extra content for what's going on in the war, and you can help support our channel. So I appreciate it if you go over and become a supporter at chuckholton.com. And there's a sale going on right now for Father's Day. So there is the Natanz nuclear facility has been completely destroyed above ground. They don't know how bad it is below ground, but they do say that there has been nuclear contamination around that facility. They've also hit the Fodor's facility. They've hit the Isfahan facility, and they are continuing to pound those right now as we speak. So the Iranians formally pulled out of the uh, peace talks or ceasefire talks that they were having with the United States. Those things were going nowhere anyway, so that's not a huge deal. It was a waste of time. Now, I do need to report that, thank you, I think it was Tony, appreciate that. I do need to report that there are reports coming out that Iran has attacked the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. And so with missiles. I'm looking for some corroboration on that. But if that happens, and especially if American troops or civilians are injured or killed, you can imagine that the pressure on President Trump is going to get ramped up quite a bit to respond in kind. Now, the United States Navy is moving tons of ships into the region right now to protect Israel. The assistance that was provided to Israel yesterday, last night and this morning, throughout these repeated barrages from Iran, the help that the United States has offered has been ground-based help only. That means ground-based anti-missile defense like the THAAD missile system and the Patriot missile batteries that are in Israel right now. You know, the United States has about 1,000 U.S. troops in Israel, many of them down by the Dimona nuclear facility at their own base. And so we've got U.S. troops at risk in the region without a doubt. And so they helped to shoot down a bunch of those drones and missiles and things that were coming in. But they did not use, and this is telling, they did not use aircraft and they did not use the ships to shoot those down. And so it's almost like a half-hearted response by the United States in this. They're not actually going all out, and they certainly are not going on the offensive against Iran. But if Iran just bombed the U.S. embassy in Baghdad and people were injured, then President Trump is going to be pressured to start changing that a little bit. Now, Tehran's air defense system has been activated all night long. The ratio, thank you, Dimona, or 499, whoever that is, the ratio of combat power that's being brought to bear against Tehran versus what's being done to Israel is about 10 to 1, meaning, thank you, Maine, that's very kind of you. What I mean is, there's far more destruction in Iran right now than there is in Israel, and that's because Iran has no air defense, virtually zero air defense. Iran's air defenses have been completely destroyed. They've got some legacy firearm kind of, air defense cannons and things like that, but they're not radar guided. They're not able to see the Israeli planes, and because of that, they're very, very ineffective. There was some fake news going around last night on Arab channels that 2 or 3 Israeli aircraft had been shot down over Iran and that they had captured Israeli pilots. Thank you, Josiah. That turned out to be completely false. And it was... You're going to see a lot of that. Actually, in Arab media right now, you're seeing a ton of AI-generated content that shows Tel Aviv in flames. And not that Tel Aviv didn't get hit. It did get hit. But the content's coming out on Arab media. A lot of it is just bunk. It's absolute deep fake nonsense. And hang on. I'm just checking here. So thank you for our supporters that are here. You can become a member here on the YouTube channel if you like, and help to support the channel that way. But it'd be better if you go over to chuckholton.com and become a supporter over there, because that helps us to sort of future-proof the channel from the vagaries of YouTube. There is a... government quarter they call the Kiryat in Tel Aviv, and it was struck last night by a hypersonic missile. Some very incredible footage coming out of that strike, because there were a lot of journalists that were pointing their cameras at the skyline of Tel Aviv, and to see one of those hypersonic missiles come in is pretty crazy. If I can, I will show you a video of that here in just a minute. President Trump said that Iran was hit 10 times harder, and now Israel is reportedly targeting the coastal areas of Iran, and that means they're targeting their oil facilities. Israel made it very clear that if Iran retaliated on Israel and struck civilian areas, that Israel would go after critical infrastructure inside Iran. So we're talking about their oil facilities, their transport facilities for that oil, their communications nodes, their power grid, and we're seeing all of that coming to fruition as this goes along, okay? Folks, we got more than 13,000 people online. Please go hit the like button. It makes a big difference if you do that, and helps to grow the number of people that are seeing this, okay? Now, reports of an explosion at the Raisi power plant in Isfahan from 1 o'clock this morning. Also attacks on Kermanshah. Report of an attack on the Mirab airport in Tehran. So they're flattening the airport. Thank you for that $5. And reports also on attacks in the Elam region of Iran. Iran reports the latest waves of attacks is the most violent since the attacks began in Iran. There's an area called Baristan that's also near Tehran that's under attack. The people, now this is really interesting, and this is news that you're not getting elsewhere. We're on some WhatsApp groups that also have a lot of people that are inside Iran that contribute to these. And that's because Jacob Persley, Dr. Jacob Persley here in Armenia, works with Iranians that are coming into Armenia and helps to evangelize them and help them find Jesus. And a lot of those people are looking, I mean, they're very open to it. So they go back to Iran and they stay on these WhatsApp groups. We've been hearing from them. Thank you for those contributions, appreciate it. And they're saying, this is great. Everybody in Iran is so happy that finally the regime is being hit. And they are hoping and praying that the attacks will continue until the Iranian regime topples. And we may see that happen before long. At 1 o'clock this morning, there was a drone intrusion alert in Eilat. It was shot down. They intercepted that drone. At that point, by 1 o'clock this morning, they had 63 injured in missile attacks on central Israel, and 2 of them were critical. The airstrikes are striking, the airstrikes in Iran right now are striking government buildings and residential areas that belong to the top generals and the ayatollahs and the mullahs, okay? So they are absolutely devastating the government facilities inside Iran right now. There were several cruise missiles fired. Now, I want to show you this picture because this is interesting. This is a bunch of IRGC commanders, the Quds Force commanders in there. Every person in this photo has been eliminated by Israel. That is a real decapitation strike right there. Israeli Defense Forces released details about strikes, saying the nuclear technology complex in Isfahan has been dismantled. They also took out a facility that is for producing metallic uranium and infrastructure for reconverting enriched uranium, and blew up some laboratories and additional infrastructure, all in Isfahan. Air defense systems are deployed all around Tehran, where the residences of the supreme leader and president are also located. And this is what it looks like in Tehran. So Folks, this is all-out war. It's what all-out war looks like. The current attacks in Tehran are targeting the presidential compound and Khamenei's residential neighborhood. Now I'm going to go down and kind of update you. Israeli TV footage from south of Tel Aviv where another missile struck. This is from Israel.
Yo, yo, yo. סוף העולם, yo. Yo, סוף העולם. אתם לא רואים?
Now, fortunately for the Israelis, everybody in Israel has a shelter to go to. And that is one reason why we have not seen a whole lot of people die. Thank you for that $10. It could have been so much worse. It could just imagine what Israel would look like right now if they didn't have the Iron Dome system, if they didn't have the assistance of a bunch of other reasonable countries in the region, and if the people of Israel did not have their bomb shelters to go to. So even though we see some damage, there are not a lot of people being killed and injured in Israel because of their preparations, okay? The last barrage that just came in just a few minutes ago, about 15 minutes ago, they say that there have been 10 additional civilians wounded. That's all in central Israel. And now, just imagine if Iran had nuclear warheads. What would have happened? Unbelievable. Israeli air defense systems are responding to missiles launched by Iran in the early hours of the morning. That's just right now happening. You see some videos there. Those white streaks of light are Israeli Iron Dome missiles that are rushing to take out the incoming missiles. So there's another video right there of those you can see there. Thank you for that 200, whatever that was. So coming to you via Starlink from southern Armenia right now. In a small farming village on close to the border with Iran. This is what Tehran looks like right now. Okay, well, not right now. This must have been a couple hours ago because it was still dark, and it's not dark there now. It is about 7 o'clock in the morning in Tehran, and so they're continuing this back and forth. I mean, if I go over to the Shofar app and see if I can pull that up, the latest missile warnings are completely covering Israel. Now, this has not happened since the kind of October, November, beginning of the war. Okay, this is absolutely all of Israel under the threat of missile attack as we speak. So you need to be praying for Israel right now. Thank you for that $9.99, Mitch. Appreciate that. And thank you for those of you who stand with Israel. Do you think China and Russia will assist in some way with Iran since they're so invested with Iran? Well, if right now the way that they're assisting is they're contacting Israel and saying, Russia is, and saying that they would broker a ceasefire. Russia doesn't have the bandwidth to get involved militarily. They might perhaps send some intelligence, satellite intelligence or something like that to help Iran. They have already sent some air defense equipment to Iran, and all of that's been destroyed, I think. So this is a very good advertisement for Western military equipment and not Eastern military equipment, because all of the military equipment that you see in Iran is either Chinese, North Korean, or Russian, and or built right in Iran itself, and all of it is vastly inferior to what is being brought to bear against them by the Israelis. Thank you, Diamond, whatever that was. So, man, there's questions going by so fast I can hardly even get them. Thank you, Leganberry. I appreciate that. Now, let's move on to what's happening in Tel Aviv. Now, last night, this was the scene in Tel Aviv near the Kiryat. That's the government complex there that was hit. There's a question. Based on Iran's response, does this indicate they're still organized? Do you think they're internally in chaos? Well, they're not as organized as they were because a whole lot of their top brass has been taken out, right? So that's obviously throws a wrench in the works, right? But they are still able to attack Israel. Now, keep in mind, as I said, Israel is attacking Iran with airplanes and bombs. Iran is attacking Israel with suicide drones and missiles. What's the difference there? Well, as I said, the planes can carry much more ordnance, much more explosive power than the missiles can. And so the damage that's being done in Iran is going to be 10 times the damage that's being done in Israel, even with the Iron Dome system notwithstanding. However, on top of that, you have to keep in mind that a missile is a one and done thing. It's a one and done weapon. You fire it, it goes, it explodes. You can't use that missile again. There's no reusing any of those suicide drones either. So the airplanes that Israel is using against Iran can be reused, and they have very large stockpiles of bombs that they can bring to bear against Iran. So what we're seeing right now is Iran very quickly running out of weapons that can strike Israel. And if this keeps up for a week, Iran's going to be completely out of missiles. They have plenty of missiles that are short range that won't reach Israel, but those ones are pretty much worthless in this war. So we're talking about the 1,000 or so missiles that Iran has that can make it all the way to Israel. And once those 1,000 missiles are gone, they're gone. Iran doesn't have the ability to make more of them, especially now. Because remember back in October when Israel struck Iran, they took out their planetary mixers. That's those mixers that mix rocket fuel for their missiles. It does it in a vacuum so that there's no bubbles inside the fuel that could make it burn in an irregular way. So that means that Israel has a lot more stamina, a lot more staying power to continue to strike at Iran, and Iran is quickly running out of the ability to strike at Israel at all. Okay? Now, look, Israel and other Western agencies, intel agencies, they have pretty good information on what Iran's capabilities are. Okay? And that helps us understand what the threat level actually is. So, like I say, Iran is not going to be able to continue to threaten Israel. They can then transition perhaps and use some of their more short-range missiles on like U.S. military bases that are closer than Israel is, right? Okay, this just coming in right now. MDA, that's Magen David Adom, that's the ambulance service in Israel, says its medics are treating 10 people in light to moderate with light to moderate injuries. The IDF Home Front Command says that civilians can now leave the bomb shelters that was about 10 minutes ago, as Iran's latest barrage of ballistic missiles is finished. Now, let's talk about some of these numbers. There were reports earlier this morning from the IDF themselves that last night's barrage, the initial barrage on Israel, contained less than 100 or about 100 ballistic missiles. Now, they also said that they managed to intercept 97% of the munitions that were fired at them. I'm not sure how they're counting that, because we know for a fact, by their own reporting, Israel says that at least 9 missiles have gotten through the Iron Dome system and have struck Israel. At least 9 missiles. If they only fired 100 missiles at Israel and they have a 97% rate of shooting them down, that would mean only 3 got through. So there's a difference here. And I think that difference is that they're talking about all of the munitions that were fired at them, including the drones, which they've shot down 100% of. I think one of them made it into Israel, landed in a field up in the north and didn't do anything. So this is in central Israel now. I don't have the exact location. Well, I showed you that a minute ago. This is the most recent barrage from Iran. 1 missile got through. And again, that barrage is now over. Okay. So, questions. Now, if you have a question, put it in all caps and put the word question at the beginning, and that makes it easier for me to find it because there's a lot of comments going by here. They said Iran was scrambling jets. Well, they don't have any. Paul said Iran was scrambling jets. No, they did scramble some, but there was, at the very beginning, 24 hours ago, there were reports that at least 8 Iranian jets were shot down. The Iranian jets are from the 1970s. They're no match at all for Israeli jets, or the F-35s, F-15s, and F-16s that Israel is flying over there. Now, the United States is assisting in these operations, and they're not just assisting in the defensive operations. They are also assisting in the offense operations by helping Israel refuel its aircraft in the air. There was some video that came out last night, of a Israeli jet refueling over Iraq, and the refueling aircraft was one of the U.S. Pegasus refueling aircraft. So there's no question that's been confirmed, and there's no question that the United States is assisting also with intelligence and targeting help for the IDF. Do you think the IDF is, going to target Khamenei himself? Yes, they are. They have said they would, and they are doing it right now. Question, what's Israel's best defense system to protect against drones? And should we look into developing a system that helps more for just drones? I'm assuming, Matt, you're talking about in the United States. Should we develop a system like that? Their system to protect against drones, they have, of course, the Iron Dome system will work. They have hunted down those drones with attack helicopters and shot them down that way. They have also used the new Iron Beam system to shoot down drones up in the north, but they don't have a bunch of those, out in the field yet. So if they can get, hundreds of those Iron Beam systems deployed, Israel's going to be in great shape. They'll be able to shoot down all kinds of stuff. Question, will this lead to World War III? Dan asks. Well, my opinion, Dan, is that we're already in World War III. In World War II, they didn't call it World War II during World War II. It was called that after it was over. So I think we're in World War III. It's just not being called that yet. Why? Because all of the major players are involved in one way or another, either assisting or directly fighting in some place around the world. Now, World War III is not going to look like World War II. That's just the plain truth. I mean, because World War II had massive conventional armies going head to head, and right at the end of World War II, the nuclear bomb was introduced. Now we have many countries that have nuclear bombs, I think 9 as of last count, and so that means that war has to change. And that's why you see so many proxy wars happening around the globe. Those proxy wars, keep the main players that are nuclear players from having to fight each other directly. So the war in Ukraine is a proxy war between Russia and NATO. And Ukraine is the football field for the contest. This war in Israel is a war between the West and the, jihadist elements or the extremist elements of radical Islam. So Stacy Brooker says, how big of a devastation will the Jericho 3 nuclear warheads cause? They are, as far as I understand, much more powerful than the weapons that were used against Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They could really make Tehran unlivable. Let's just say that. Will Russia and China get involved? A lot of people are asking that. No, I don't think they will. Can Israel allow or redirect incoming missiles to fall on the Al-Aqsa Dome? No, they can't redirect those. One thing that they can do, and that they are doing, is they're spoofing the GPS signal throughout the country of Israel right now. If you're in Israel and you pull up your map on your phone, it's going to show that you're either at the airport in Beirut or the airport in Cairo. No matter where you are in Israel right now, if you pull up your GPS, it's going to show you're in Beirut or Cairo. The reason for that is because many of these drones are GPS guided. Thank you, GJ. And so they can confuse the drones and the drones won't be able to hit their targets. Is Israel aiming for a regime change of Iran? It looks like it, because the Israelis are right now striking at the residences of the Ayatollah and the mullahs. And so, as a matter of fact, let's see if I can find it. Benjamin Netanyahu released another statement saying that, let's see if I can find that here. He released another statement earlier this morning saying to the Iranian people, this is your chance. This is your chance to rise up and overthrow the regime. Because of Israel's actions, the regime is now weaker than it has ever been. And so if you're in Iran and you don't like this regime, this is your chance to rise up and do something about it and help to topple the regime and bring peace to the entire region. Because, look, the violence that's been taking place across the Middle East since October 7th is virtually all tied back to Iran in some way, shape, or form. October 7th was partially planned in Iran and partially in Afghanistan. And so taking out this murderous regime in Iran would be the quickest way to bring some modicum of peace in the Middle East. How are you able to talk your wife into letting you go into some of the most dangerous places on earth? She trusts God, and so do I. And she's here with me right now. Will Turkey get involved? If so, what capacity? Turkey has denounced the attacks by Israel on Iran. They have flown some of their aircraft down into Syria to sort of keep an eye on what's happening, but they're not going to get involved militarily against Israel. That would be highly unlikely, in my opinion. Casey asks, will the Straits of Hormuz be closed? Iran has threatened to do that. A whole bunch of their Navy ships have been already struck and destroyed, so they may not have the ability to close it for long if they do. Thank you, Larissa. How serious do you think the danger is to us here on American soil, and what way are we in danger? Good question. Yes, Americans are in danger in the United States, because one of the things that Iran is going to do now is they're going to pull out all the stops on their asymmetric war plan. And that asymmetric war plan includes strikes inside the United States. So they have sleeper cells. It's known that Iran has sleeper agents inside the U.S., and so I think it's very likely that we will see some mayhem, some shenanigans taking place across the United States in different places by Iranian sleeper cells. And that may happen in the next couple of days. Tomorrow morning for you in the United States are planned in 1,800 cities across the U.S. These No Kings I don't know, rallies, protests, parades, whatever you want to call them. And they're talking about this parade that President Trump is putting on in Washington, D.C. to celebrate the 250th year of the U.S. Army. All of those gatherings of people are soft targets that could easily be struck. So I would recommend that you avoid large crowds of people for the time being in the United States. The Iranians, on top of that, also have the ability to exploit zero-day exploits inside American infrastructure, most likely. And they believe, it is believed by American hackers that Iran has been saving those zero-day exploits for just such a time as this. And so that also means that we could see power outages in the United States. We could see things going crazy, like all of the stoplights in American cities turning green at the same time, you know, stuff like that. Okay. And that is something that can be rectified fairly quickly, but they could also get into American hydroelectric plants and potentially open the floodgates and flood places. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that Iran could potentially do with their cyber capability. And so we need to be aware of that. Is Israel part of NATO? It is not. And so, and it's, NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance. Why Turkey is a part of NATO, I don't know. But somebody's saying Baal is an angel. Okay, whatever. Thank you for that. Question, can we get your church prep book still? Yes, that's been, I'm working on that more right now. But if you go become a supporter at chuckholton.com, you can download, well, you can read. We've been writing articles based on that book over there. And so a lot of that information is there on chuckholton.com if you want to go over there. So you can also get my latest book, Death of Civilization, as a free download by becoming a supporter at chuckholton.com right now. It's pinned to the top of the page, easy to find. You can download a PDF of that book. And that book, Death of Civilization, is about the loss of civility that we're experiencing across the United States and across the world, really, and what you can do about it to kind of reverse it. Not just be prepared. I'm not talking about, this is not a standard prepper book that's telling you to go put 6 months of food in your basement, although that would be a good idea. This is a book that is about how to bring your neighborhood together and reverse the trend that is causing this failure of civility in the United States. So, all right, let's go back here. How long do you believe this war may last? Longer than you think. Wars grow unpredictably, and wars always last longer than you think. Now, some people have been asking if this is the Ezekiel war, okay? And I've been saying, look, I don't want to address that because I'm not a scholar when it comes to biblical end times prophecy. I think that's a pretty arcane subject that you've got to really be into, okay? But let's discuss this Ezekiel prophecy for a minute. I did put together a quick kind of primer on it for you so that you can understand what people are talking about when they talk about the Ezekiel war. They're referring to prophecies in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, often called the war of Gog and Magog. Here's what that means. Ezekiel 38 and 39 describes a massive end times war where a coalition of nations attacks Israel, and God supernaturally intervenes to defend his people. Key elements of that prophecy are the invader, Gog and Magog, of the land, Gog of the land of Magog, which leads a military alliance against Israel. The allied nations include Persia, modern-day Iran, Put, which is Libya, Cush, which is Sudan or Ethiopia, Gomer and Togarmah, which is possibly parts of modern-day Turkey or the Caucasus. That would be here in Armenia. The invaders come from the north and attack a peaceful and prosperous Israel. God destroys the invaders supernaturally with earthquakes, hailstones, fire, and brimstone. The aftermath includes massive casualties, and it takes 7 months to bury the dead. So why people think this might be that war? Well, Iran is specifically named in the prophecy and is now openly at war with Israel. Some view Turkey and Russia, often associated with Gomer and Magog, as aligning in ways that could fulfill that prophecy in the alliance. The direct attacks on Israel from foreign nations feel biblically significant, especially with the scale of missile strikes and talk of nuclear conflict. Why some people might not think this is the Ezekiel war. Ezekiel describes Israel dwelling in safety before the war, and some argue modern Israel is not in that state yet. The supernatural destruction described in Ezekiel hasn't happened, and Bible scholars differ on whether this war is symbolic, future war, or already partially fulfilled. So the bottom line is, people keep asking me about this Ezekiel war. I don't know, because I'm not a biblical scholar, and even biblical scholars can't agree on whether or not we are in that time. Let's just put it this way. It's definitely, there's a definite certainty that Israel is one day closer to the Ezekiel 38-39 war than they were yesterday. And so we need to be busy helping people, drag people out of the fire spiritually, and helping them turn to Jesus and find their salvation. Now, thank you, Fletch. Appreciate that. Hope for the U.S., or are we in inevitable decline? I think we're in inevitable decline. I think the United States is headed for what I would call balkanization. That is breaking up into multiple countries eventually, not maybe this year or next, but in the next, 10, 15, 20 years. I think it is very possible that the United States could break up into multiple countries. Question, do you think Israel got through the layers of tunnels where the uranium is? No, I don't. I think that many, especially at the Farhan nuclear base, they are buried so deep that even the U.S. massive ordnance penetrator, our largest bunker buster bomb, could not penetrate every part of that facility. And so things that are hidden in those facilities are likely still intact, even if Israel has managed to collapse the entrances to those facilities. Please make sure you answer the person's question who donated $200 earlier. Oh gosh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry, I missed it. Let me go back and see if I can find it. Can somebody repeat the question if you saw it? And because there's so many hundreds of comments going by, I completely missed that one. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's not $200. That's 200 something else. But thank you for that, live animal. What are the chances that Iran will infiltrate the upcoming ICE protests to make it more troubling? I think the chances are high that will happen. I think that Iran's cyber core right now is currently, as we speak, involved in what we would call like shaping operations by trying to foment unrest in the United States. The way they do that is by using bot farms to amplify inflammatory messages, whether they're true or not. And in many cases, they're not true. And so they're stuff that's made up by Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and they are amplified, these bot farms, in the United States. And they are designed to divide us and to make us hate the other side, the other team, if you will, in the U.S. Everybody knows the United States is an incredibly divided nation. As a matter of fact, we are two nations living in the same locations. And those two nations are mutually exclusive for the most part, because we hold to completely different worldviews about the nature of truth, but that's another story. The long and the short of it is that our adversaries are capitalizing on those divisions to try to tear us apart. And we need to think about that and maybe not engage in the online tit for tat, back and forth, screaming at each other because somebody has an opinion that's different from ours. Because if we stop doing that, we nullify the effect of these adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran on our cyber, in the cyberspace. Doesn't Israel own nuclear weapons yet? Denies it. That's true. That's not in clear disregard to international law. Luda, Israel has the right to the nuclear weapons that they possess and they have possessed for many years, and they are not planning on using those. They have a policy that they will only use those in a defensive capacity. So it's not in contravention of international law for the Iranians even to get nuclear weapons, although, we're not going to allow them to do that. Mark Churchill says, is it possible to detonate a near completed nuclear warhead when struck with other munitions? Well, if they did, it would be kind of like a dirty bomb, and it could spread nuclear material around and, contaminate the immediate area, but it's not going to blow up a city. It's not going to cause a nuclear explosion. Larissa asks, do you think that we here in America are headed for civil war? Yes, I do. Is it possible? Okay, we got that one. Question, Chuck, should we avoid places like Europe or America right now? No, I don't think you should avoid Europe or America, but you should avoid large crowds in Europe or America if you have a chance. One of the reasons I really enjoy being somewhere like this, because there's nobody around. Now, as we kind of wind this thing down, folks, I want to just show you something that's really cool here. And I'm going to turn the camera around and show you this 16th century church that's right here behind me. This thing is still in use in this little village of Tatev up in the mountains of Armenia, and it's pretty awesome. They've got an old graveyard right there. Those are very old gravestones. There's a gravestone right there, and there's a water point over here where people in the village come to get their drinking water. And there's a bunch of water points like this that are tied to springs in this area. But it's a beautiful, beautiful area. I mean, look at those mountains over there. This town is incredibly beautiful. And if you haven't been to Armenia, I highly recommend that you go. I don't know why Armenia is not right up there with Rome and Paris and Venice and all those places that are on everybody's bucket list. Those places are just holes at this point. They're terrible. They're full of homeless and migrants and graffiti and crime. And you come to Armenia, it's the safest country in this whole region. And so we are running a trip to Armenia next June, and you can get on that trip if you like by going to chuckholton.com right now and signing up. So space is limited, obviously. You're going to want to get it quick. Usually when I announce that with this many people online, we're going to have filled the thing by the time I finish this live in about 7 minutes. Question, will the Ayatollah slip out to Russia like Bashar al-Assad? Well, there's a non-zero chance of that happening, of the Ayatollah fleeing to another country. But let me tell you, if Israel wants to get him, they will track him down and they'll get him, even if he's in another country. Do you think America is safe tomorrow? No, I do not. I think I've been saying over and over, avoid large crowds, especially tomorrow, Saturday, on the 14th. I would not attend any of the rallies. I would not attend that parade that's happening in D.C. It is, look, the older I get, the less I like large crowds of people. And that's because I spend my life in very dangerous places, and large crowds large crowds of people attract very bad things often, okay? Venice, Italy is awesome. Yeah, Venice is nice. I'm just saying Armenia is every bit as nice as Venice, but is much safer, much cheaper, much cleaner, much friendlier in every way. Will I be safe in Niagara Falls and Toronto on Canada Day? Probably. Canadians are not a very warlike people, so you're probably fine. Thank you, Christine. Will the current situation between Iran and Israel have a negative impact on Armenia in the coming weeks? It possibly could. That's a very good question, Christine. Thank you for asking it. I'm going to hit the heart button on that. Yesterday, as we were driving out here, we saw Armenian troops marshaling, large groups. And I don't know if they were training, I don't know if they had a retirement ceremony, or if they were preparing for war. It's likely that they are upping the alert level for Armenian troops not because there's a threat from Iran or from Israel, because Azerbaijan, Armenia's arch enemy, right over that way, could likely take advantage of all of this chaos to attack Armenia. They've been talking about taking this province that I'm standing in right now, Syunik province, for a long time. Azerbaijan calls this area where I'm standing Western Azerbaijan. Now that's laughable because this church behind me has been here since the 16th century. And Azerbaijan didn't even become a country until 1917. So it's pretty hard to say that Azerbaijan has history here and Armenia doesn't. If you want to know whose history is here, you just have to read some of these very old, I'll take you over here and let you see them, these very old gravestones right here, okay? And the writing on these gravestones is in Armenian from the 16th century, okay? The Armenians have been here since the time of Noah. This is Armenian land. And incidentally, so is Azerbaijan. But unfortunately for the Armenians, Azerbaijan has 5 times as many troops as Armenia does because of all their oil wealth over there that Armenia doesn't have. Armenia doesn't really have a big brother to protect them right now. France has helped out a little bit. The European Union has helped out a little bit. One of the towns we went to yesterday that we were in yesterday morning was shelled. It's very close to the Azeri border, and Azerbaijan was shelling it until the European Union sent some representatives to live there. And now that there's European Union people there, Azerbaijan won't shell it anymore, okay? So, I thought I saw another question go by there. Do you think count like UK and Australia countries like UK and Australia will get involved? Well, the UK is already involved. They've got ships over here and aircraft and things like that. So the UK is definitely involved. I don't know about Australia. I mean, Australia, I don't know. I don't think so. Does anyone speak English there, or do you have to learn their language? There are a lot of people in Armenia who speak English because there are almost as many Armenians in Glendale, California, than there are in the country of Armenia. And they come back and forth from the United States all the time. So they love Americans here. They're super friendly people. It's a very free country in terms of just being able to do what you want to do. If I want to fly my drone or ride in the back of a truck or whatever, they're like, yeah, go ahead, whatever. They don't have a problem with me filming. I've never had a problem here in Armenia. Armenia is the safest country in Asia, and you should visit. You can go to chuckholton.com and you can get signed up to join me and my wife on our next trip to Armenia in June of next year for an 11-day adventure. You'll get to see this place and many others. And so I highly recommend it. Look, I've been to more than 100 countries on planet Earth. Armenia is the nicest country I have ever been to. And that's saying something, okay? I have been around the block a time or two, and there's lots of beautiful places on planet Earth. But overall, all things considered, Armenia is the best place to visit if you want to go on vacation. I don't think Iran can reach the U.S. with missiles, can they? So far, they don't have missiles that would reach the United States, but they do have missiles that would reach U.S. bases across the region. And, you know, we got 40,000 American troops all around this region. There are hundreds of thousands of American citizens in Israel right now. So there you go. All right. We just went over an hour, folks. I've got to get going because I've got 24 people waiting on me for more fun to be had here in Armenia. So thank you very much for watching our live today. I'll try to go live again if there are more developments to bring you from this conflict, and undoubtedly there will be. So please, let's pray for Israel, and then we will go. Lord God, I come to you right now and I just lift up Israel. I ask you to send your angels to camp around Israel and protect Israel from evil men. I pray that you would thwart evil men and their plans. You would cause their own missiles to fall on their heads. You would cause just absolute devastation to take place in their country so that they won't be able to threaten their neighbors anymore. Lord, I also pray for the people of Iran that are just behind me there. I pray that you would protect them from these attacks as well. The Iranian people do not hate Israel. And Lord, I pray that you would actually perform a miracle. And at some point in the near future, Iranians and Israelis would get together as allies, and they would be friends again, as they were during the Shah's time back in the 80s. Lord, I pray that the war would come to a swift conclusion, that the hostages would be released from Gaza, that Hamas would be destroyed, and that Israel would be able to live in peace. So we pray for the peace of Jerusalem right now. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching. God bless you, and we'll see you again next time.